It's so over the top and campy and cheesy. Nobody could take this thing seriously. But it was weaponized.
Night Trap, which adds a new dimension of violence specifically targeted against women. It ought to be taken off the market entirely.
And so before Dad even got a chance to really experience this game, it was pulled from store shelves, discontinued. And when this happened, it only made Dad more interested. But first, a word about this video's sponsor, Huel. Remember those chaotic mornings in the 90s? Mom scrambling breakfast, Dad hunting for his keys, and you trying to squeeze in a few extra minutes of Super Mario before school? Yeah, we've all been there. Fast forward to today, and mornings still feel like a race. That's why I've been using Huel for a while now. It's kind of become my secret weapon. Most days, I grab a Black Edition shake first thing in the morning when I don't have time to cook breakfast. Some days, it's a lifesaver after a workout, or anytime I just need to power through a busy schedule. Honestly, my favorite flavor is coffee caramel. It's smooth, easy to mix, and just hits the spot without feeling like I'm forcing myself to drink something healthy. If you're wondering what Huel is all about, I'd say it's a complete plant-based meal that actually keeps you fueled. Protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, all in one shake. It's convenient, sustainable, affordable, and makes those crazy busy days way easier. And it works. Black Edition packs 40 grams of protein per serving, fewer carbs, and 0 artificial sweeteners. Basically like a power-up for your morning. So, if you want to give it a try, Huel's letting you get 15% off with my code RETROLIFE15 at Huel.com/RetroLife15. Minimum order value of $75. Thank you, Huel, for sponsoring today's video.
It's a music record.
Rock and roll.
Let me see.
Duran Duran.
That's a Duran Duran laser disc, not a record.
What's the
Oh,
next
very nice. I wonder
It's
how
called
he
Duran
knew.
Duran.
I wonder how.
Pioneer had released the Laserdisc as a high-end competitor to VHS.
That is nice.
Dad hated VHS, so anytime he could get his hands on Laserdisc movies, oh, you betcha, he was going to get it.
The movie!
movie on Laserdisc, Tyler? Wow.
But Laserdisc technology wasn't just movies, guys. No. It was on Laserdisc where we first experienced FMV games.
No.
Yes, on Laserdisc.
I'll never forget one night, Dad pulled out a Laserdisc called Murder Anyone. I remember him telling me, Tyler, this is a Laserdisc game. You can actually play this. I was blown away. I was like, what? What do you mean there's no controller? I was expecting like a Sega Genesis controller or Nintendo, but no. You used the Laserdisc remote to basically select prompts on the screen. It was interactive, like a choose-your-own adventure, and you could go through this murder mystery, sort of like a whodunit, where you had to figure out who was the killer.
I might decide to call in the police, just for a little chat. Or maybe the newspapers.
It was so much fun sitting on our couch playing this game with Mom and Dad.
I'm heading upstairs. If any of you want to talk about it, that's where I'll be.
When we first got the Sega CD, I can remember renting tons of full motion video games with Dad.
How could you let that happen?
That wasn't too bad, kid.
Pretend it's a game.
I remember our favorite was Road Avenger by Wolf Team.
Wolf Team.
The animations were great, The action was in your face, and I can just remember laughing and just having such a good time with Dad on Road Avenger. But they weren't all that great. I remember us also renting the likes of Mad Dog McCree, and this game just looked horrible.
Mad Dog McCree and his band of cutthroats riding into town.
Mad Dog McCree had previously existed in the arcades as a Laserdisc interactive shooting game, and we played it in the arcades and it looked beautiful. But here it was on Sega CD. We could have it at home now, but it looked awful. I mean, it's just so garbled up, and you can barely tell what's even going on the screen. From that point forward, Dad knew that he had to be really cautious when it came to renting these games, especially buying them. There was no way he was going to buy an FMV game before trying it out first. And yes, there were quite a few stinkers that we rented in those days. Oh my gosh, Who Shot Johnny Rock?
Cops have closed the file on this one, and that's why I need you.
Ground Zero, Texas?
And I can't understand why you're acting like this either.
Because you do some stupid things.
And although we played these games and experienced a lot of them, hit or miss.
Are you nuts?
There was one FMV game on Sega CD that stood above all the others. The infamous Night Trap. Back in 1993, the Senate held meetings to bring awareness and do something about video game violence.
It would be far better for America's parents and children if the industry simply kept the worst violence and sex out of their games.
A bunch of senators had gotten together to try to take down video games, or at least censor them quite a bit in those early 90s. It's true, a bunch of games back then were coming out that were pushing the envelope when it came to boundaries with violence in video games. Well, wouldn't you know it, another game that was brought up during these Senate hearings was Night Trap.
Night Trap, which is a game set in a sorority house. The object is to keep hooded men from hanging the young woman from a hook or drilling their necks with a tool designed to drain their blood.
At the time, my dad had kind of avoided Night Trap. I think he had heard some early word that, yes, it was a game that was a little bit mature, definitely not one that I could really view or play as a kid. I mean, just the cover art alone on Night Trap, it looked like a slasher film right there on the cover.
This is a copy of the packaging. There was no rating on this game at all when the game was introduced. Small children bought this at Toys R Us, and he knows that as well as I do.
But there was something that was so intriguing to it about Dad, because he loved those movies. He loved horror movies. He was a horror movie film buff. And some of his favorite films were slasher films back in those days, from the likes of John Carpenter and Dario Argento.
Night Trap uses actual actors and achieves an unprecedented level of realism.
When he first saw Night Trap in the stores on retail store shelves, it was definitely intriguing to him. But there was always that trepidation with Dad when it came to Night Trap. He just knew that he couldn't bring this game home. He couldn't expose my young eyes to this potentially very mature title.
You won't feel a thing.
Dad wanted this game, but if he bought the game, it was going to be a hard sell for Mom, and it was going to be difficult to keep me from the game. So throughout 1993, Night Trap was off limits. Dad did not buy the game. I remember seeing it on the store shelves, and every time I saw Night Trap, I always said to myself, oh man, there's that game that's like the R-rated video game, the game that's only for adults. And it looked like it on the cover. I mean, it looked like a movie you'd see at Blockbuster in the horror movie film section. Night Trap was originally produced and developed by Hasbro, and it was going to come out on this sort of interactive VHS tape technology, but Hasbro canceled the filming of this full-motion video game. It got shelved until better technology came out. When the Sega CD was released, Night Trap suddenly had new life and new interest.
About 2 months ago, I saw the video game Night Trap for the first time. It is a sick, disgusting video game.
Listen, things are getting really weird around here. Keep your eyes open and watch out for the other girls.
The late Dana Plato, she actually stars in this game. And really, that kind of star power in a video game, that was very unique back then.
I find that so extremely offensive, and the only word you can say to the manufacturers is shame on you.
The Senate hearings made my dad really curious. I mean, he was already very intrigued and wanted this game, but now he really wanted to check it out because there was so much scrutiny and so much controversy around it.
It is a sick, disgusting video game.
There were so many politicians out for blood, ironically. And man, it was a crazy time. It was a wild time, guys. There was some real fear that the government was going to really take down the games industry, or really at least censor so much of the games that we were loving at the time. When the Senate hearings wrapped up and 1993 came to a close, the video game industry had changed. It definitely had. And one of the first things we noticed was the fact that Night Trap was no longer in stores. And so before Dad even got a chance to really experience this game, it was pulled from store shelves, discontinued. First Toys R Us, then KB Toys.
Congress will be asked to establish a rating system to protect children from gruesome games.
We now require warning labels on toys that can potentially damage children's bodies. Why not do so on a toy that can damage their minds?
Then, in early 1994, Sega themselves removed the game from distribution.
Even so, the giant Sega Corporation recently introduced a voluntary system to rate video games for use by a general audience, those over 13 and over 17.
It became difficult to find Night Trap. And when this happened, it only made Dad more interested. It became one of these missions of his. We have to get Night Trap now.
What do you think this is?
They want to take it from us. We have to get it now.
Can they help us?
And so he set out to find it. And one night, late after work, he came home with Night Trap in hand. But here's the thing, guys. I couldn't actually initially play Night Trap right out of the gate. Dad wanted to still screen the game. Dad was good about this. He really cared about what my eyes were being exposed to. And oftentimes, Dad would actually rent rated R movies, and he and my mom would have a movie night that was just for them. And I would, be playing in my room or whatever, and they would watch RoboCop 2 or, Aliens. I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies back then when I was 6 years old, 7 years old. One thing, though, that Dad did with these rated R movies, which was great, is that he would screen them with me in mind. He actually wanted me to experience great filmmaking and great movies. So if he and my mom watched a rated R movie that really wasn't too bad, like maybe it didn't have many swear words or maybe there wasn't any violence, if he deemed it okay for me to watch, he would tell me, it's okay, you can watch it. And so that night, they decided they were going to screen Night Trap. I don't think they told me, though, because I remember going to bed, and I just went to bed not really thinking too much about it.
What's this?
And at one point, I woke up in the middle of the night, or really probably just a few hours later, and I could hear a game or some sort of movie being played down the stairs. My bedroom was upstairs, and right when you come out of my room, you could look down and actually see the television. I remember looking over the banister, and there it is. Mom and Dad are playing Night Trap. I go down the stairs, and it's one of those things where I think my mom was there, but they both look at me, and it's like, oh, you're up. Oh, okay. Pause the game. Why are you up? What are you doing up? Oh, I couldn't sleep, or I heard noises. I can't remember what I said exactly, but they both kind of looked at me, and I remember we then had a bit of a dialogue about Night Trap and if it was something that I could actually play. And so at that point, my dad had played enough of it that he deemed it okay for me to play. It really wasn't that bad of a game. It was pretty tame, actually. There's no nudity in the game. There's no direct violence. In fact, the only violence really that happens in the game is so cartoonish. It's almost like, what is even happening? It was such a silly game. I can remember my mom sort of rolling her eyes at Night Trap, but I think once she actually saw it, once she actually played it with Dad, I think she realized how silly it was. This is a game that did not deserve any of the scrutiny and controversy that surrounded it.
I want to state that Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system.
After Night Trap was pulled from store shelves, sometime in 1994, the ESRB rating system came to be. This was one of the byproducts of all of the Senate hearings and all of the controversy that surrounded this game and others like it at the time. Sega eventually re-released the game with different box art and slapped a M rating on the front of it. Every once in a while, you have a game that just creates so much controversy. There's so much controversy surrounding it that ultimately something comes out of it. And in this case, better practices were put into place to help families choose what games they felt were right for their kids.
This game, which as you've indicated, promotes violence against women, simply has no place in our society.
And ultimately, when I think back to Night Trap and I think back to that game and that season and all the fun surrounding it, really, the controversy was fun. I think really more about how my dad was with me and mature rated content. Dad was very, very careful about what I was exposed to. My mom, too. They didn't want my innocence stolen from me at too young an age. And just the fact that they cared that much, just the fact that they cared enough to really be cautious about what my young eyes were exposed to, and that involved watching it ahead of time. That involved watching the R-rated movie, or in this case, playing the mature-rated video game. Before I ever got a hold of it, they wanted to make sure it wasn't going to harm me. That, in essence, was an act of love.
That was incredible.
Well, guys, that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this trip back to 1993, when video games like Mortal Kombat, Doom, and of course, Night Trap were making headlines across America and the world for their perceived video game violence. Back in 1993, video game violence was like a Care Bears movie compared to today. My gosh. I'm curious to know, did you experience Night Trap back in the day when it came out? Did your family forbid you from playing it? Or maybe they were like my dad and they had to screen the game, kind of check it out before they let you play it. I'd like to know in the comments below. And if this is your first time to the channel, do consider subscribing. I love talking about my game crazy family and all the amazing adventures we had with video games, so many of which were caught on tape by Dad. And a big shout out to my patrons over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you so much for supporting the channel the way you do. If you want to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/myretrolife or click the join button right here on YouTube. That's it, guys. As we continue through the month of October, I'm going to continue to put out some horror-themed, Halloween-y kind of content, so definitely stay tuned. I hope you're enjoying it. Take care, guys.